When I was a young teacher, I was asked if I would be willing to coach an 8th grade soccer team. And because I wanted to impress my administrators, I was like, sure, why not? How hard could it possibly be? I mean, I played soccer in high school and freshman year, but sure, absolutely, sign me up. And so the first practice was actually canceled, and so I didn't get to actually meet the team until I got to our first game. And so I get there and I hear, Coach, hey, Coach. And I'm like, oh, you're talking to me. That's right, that's my new name. I'm like, yes. He's like, what positions do you want us to play? I'm like, well, what positions do you usually play? He's like, we don't usually play any positions. This is our first game. I'm like, oh, okay, well, you guys just go out there and figure out where you want to play and really just have fun. And if we're doing that, we'll win, right? And so the kids go out there and the referee blows the whistle, and that's when chaos ensued because my kids were running around like chickens with their heads cut off, and the other team took the ball without being touched once, shot it on our goalie, who I just told to go there, and they scored their first goal. And then about 30 seconds later, they scored another goal, and then another goal, and another goal. And then one of their biggest players took a shot, and one of my players accidentally stood in front of it, and it hit him, and it knocked him to the ground. And I'm like, oh! And I look over at my player, and he picks his head up, and he's just bawling his eyes out. He's crying, and I'm like, there's no crying in soccer. Well, apparently there is, because at the end of that game, almost all of my players were crying because we just got mercy ruled. They stopped the game because we were getting beaten so badly. We lost 12-0. And so that night I went home and I had this feeling, you're not a soccer coach. And I'm like, but you have to be one because you signed a contract that says that you were going to coach these kids this whole season, and they're paying you like $200 to do it. And so I went on YouTube and I started Googling, how do you coach soccer? I started looking up drill ideas. I emailed a former soccer coach from when I was a kid, and I was like, hey, do you have any ideas for what I should do with my team? I mean, I just spent the entire night figuring out how do you be a coach. And then I went to practice the next day, and that was time to fake it till you make it. I mean, I acted like a real coach. I even bought a whistle at Walmart, and we kept practicing and practicing and practicing. And then at our next game, my players showed up, and they left everything they had on the field. And by the end of that game, we lost 8-1. That's right, we scored a goal that time. And so I'm like, oh, this isn't going great, but we kept practicing and I kept learning how to be a coach. And the next game we lost like 6-2. We scored 2 goals, and the whole season went like that. And we kept getting better and better and kept losing by less and less until the last game, my players put everything they had on the soccer field and we won. We were champions, and my players acted like champions because they won one game that season. And it felt so good. And for me, I had 2 big takeaways from this whole experience. One, you're not a soccer coach. And that was actually the last time I ever coached soccer. But my second big takeaway is that sometimes you really do have to fake it till you make it. There is merit to that. You don't have to master something in order to try it. You don't have to be really great at something in order to get into it and figure out how to do it. It's okay to learn as you go. In this whole experience, I failed over and over, and I'm sure those kids would have loved to win more games. And as a competitive person, I definitely would have loved to win more games. But failing made me a better soccer coach. And as a teacher, I've had lessons bomb before. I've had them tank, where kids are disengaged, they're not learning anything. It feels like a waste of time. But then now, from this experience, I learned that, you know what, sometimes you have to iterate. Sometimes you have to look at a whole situation and figure out, what can I do better? What didn't go well, and how can I make it go well the next time? How can I learn from failure? And this mantra, how can I learn from failure, has paid off with me in so many different areas of my life. It's made me a better teacher. It's made me a better dad, a better parent, a better writer, a better speaker, a better video creator. It's made me better because we're gonna fail if we're not great at something. And so I think sometimes that keeps us from trying new things because we're not great at it. You know, there was trepidation about getting into soccer coaching because I haven't done it before. I was worried it wouldn't go well, which it didn't most of the time. But because I dove into it, I learned that it can go well, and it just sometimes takes some challenges and overcoming hurdles to get there. And that makes life really exciting when you have this attitude that it's okay to fail. I once had a principal who used to say that it is absolutely okay to fail as long as you fail forward. And so, there is your daily wisdom from the coach.